Hello. So today I am going to be talking through. Hello, the fine interiors. I'm going to be talking through the Gulliver's Play Café brand that we put together. It's coming up to a year ago they launched. And so I thought it would be really good to look back because this is a project that we have really enjoyed. Hi, Lily and Tom. So I've made a few notes, and I've also printed out behind me some of my mood boards and inspirations. And I just wanted to kind of share this so that we've got a bit more of a permanent record of this on our grid as well, just so that people can really understand the branding process and what goes into branding, what we mean by branding, because often people approach us and say, can you help craft or create a logo? And we understand why people want that, but there's actually quite a lot of other stuff that goes into thinking about a brand as well. So we wanted to share some insights and things about why branding is important and some of those different stages and things that we think through. Gulliver's is a play cafe, and they are based in Cranbrook in Kent. And when they approached us to sort of create a brand, they had absolutely nothing. They had a dream. So they wanted to create a play cafe. They had bought some of the premises that they have their cafe in now, but they didn't have anything else. And they had some ideas about what they kind of wanted it to be called and also feel like. And we spent just quite a lot of time with them thinking through lots of those kind of various things. So it's owned by Seth and Katie Gulliver. So they wanted to name their business after themselves, and they wanted to go with Gulliver's Play Café. And their concept really for this store was they've got two daughters, and Seth and Katie, Seth is a chef, and he'd worked for quite a lot of interesting big corporations and organisations, including the National Trust. And Katie's a clinical psychologist, and I went to school with Katie, and she, they've been friends for a while. And so it was really lovely to be able to collaborate and work with them on this particular project. So the idea was that they wanted this cafe to be truly child-led, and they'd been to quite a lot of various different cafes where there was like a picket fence and some astroturf in the corner and some sorry-looking toys, or also soft play centres. And if you're a parent like me, you probably have a bit of a love-hate relationship with soft play centres because they have quite a lot of noise, it's quite overstimulating, and they often have this awful smell. So they kind of wanted to steer completely away from that kind of concept and have something that was much more holistic. So Seth, with his chef background, was fed up of going to places where they kind of just popped stuff in the microwave, warmed it up, and then sort of served it up and said, this is lovely. This is some lovely food for your children, have some chicken dippers. And so they wanted to make everything fresh on site, sourcing where possible local ingredients, and also have a real mind to allergens and allergies, where they didn't want people to feel like if you have a gluten intolerance or a nut allergy, that asking them to change things or, what's kind of it got in there. Is this going to be safe for me or for my child? They didn't want for people to feel like anything was too much. So they really wanted to kind of have that in their mind, and also try and make everything fresh and gear absolutely everything around the children and make it just such a delightful place for children to want to come back. Also, what they also wanted to do was to start to then run various other courses and things. So Katie, as I said, is a clinical psychologist, and she works a lot with children. And so they really wanted to look at things that helped kind of make it not overly stimulating, but just a really enjoyable place for children to come with grown-ups and be in the space, but also to help parents parent as well with parent craft, sleep workshops, and also have, foster that kind of sense of love of reading and things like that as well. So it sounded brilliant. And what we did to begin with was we looked a lot at the strategy. So we did a number of Zoom calls because they were in Kent and we were in the Midlands. And when we kind of start talking, really what we want to hear is absolutely everything about their hopes and their dreams for their business. So we looked at where were they going, what's their 5-year plan, how is everything going to work, how was this really going to be geared around children, what did they mean when they said the things that they said. We didn't want to assume anything, because obviously when we come to a project, we all have past experiences and things that we all we all perceive, and things that we think are sort of important, or we can interpret things in a way that perhaps isn't actually very accurate. So we go around again and again and again, refining, gaining clarity, and it's quite an iterative process of saying, when you said this, what did you mean? Can you explain that? What does this kind of look like? So we don't want to assume anything. We really want to understand what people's vision is and where they're going, and not layer over it our own thoughts or things that we kind of think. But also we want to really help people to dream and to think more about their business, and have that as a really kind of focused time where people can be really inspired and think through things. And also we can suggest other things as well to people, to say, have you thought of this? Or have you considered maybe looking at various other things? And so when we started talking with Seth and Katie, they had a strap line, and we said, okay, I'm not quite sure about that. It doesn't feel right based on what you've said. And so we also were talking quite a lot about things that maybe they had kind of felt, and they said, we'd kind of like it to be like a bit of an Alice in Wonderland place. And so when we sort of explored and started to unpack that, what they really meant by that was somewhere that kind of felt quite magical and really enjoyable, and was slightly abstract and different, not necessarily mystical or a bit wacky or off the wall. And so it was good to just sort of clarify what they really meant by some of the things that they meant. And so what we then started to do was talk to them about how they wanted people to feel when they engaged in that space. And we started to get them to sort of write down what a lot of those words were, those kind of key words that really they wanted for people to feel and experience when they kind of came into the place, so that all the visual stuff that we were going to start to build around that really aligned with that. Because there's nothing worse than, I want it to feel like this, and then actually what you're served up looks quite different. And so we started talking, and I'll show you some of those words in a minute, but we really landed on, I guess, sort of, a few words we started circling back to again and again. We wanted it to be fun. We wanted it to be a positive place, a place that kind of where parents could be present and not on their phones, and really engage with their children and have that kind of 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 if you're like me, sort of space within that cafe. And they also wanted the children to feel really safe. They wanted it to feel like it was really local and really embedded in the community, and that they were really serving the local town that the cafe sits in. And also that children had freedom to kind of either join in with things, or freedom to sort of play on their own. And so Seth had this idea of having a Lego bar in there, and they knew quite a lot of things that they wanted to have toys that were locally produced by a company that was just up the road that make beautiful wooden toys as well. So I will just show you now some of the things that we started to look at. And I will try and turn my camera around. Okay. Right, so these were lots of the words that we sort of kept coming back to, and this kind of timeless, fun, witty, an interactive place, a place where you could chat, where you kind of felt safe to chat to the people who work in there and the staff, and that was going to feel really good. And as we started to sort of look at things and refine the vision, what we kind of came back to was to create a truly child-focused cafe that fosters healthy bodies and healthy minds. And so we wanted for people to just really feel nurtured and nourished as well through everything that we do. And so we started to kind of look at the language and things like that. So the brand statement that we came up with is Gulliver's Play Café makes delicious, fresh food for kids and grown-ups that will tantalise your taste buds. It's a place to play, relax, meet and make memories. And so as we kind of got further and further in and we looked at the benefits, so some of those were emotional and some of those were physical. So a chef-led kitchen making delicious fresh food with ingredients from local suppliers. They decided not on organic in the end, but to use organic where possible. A space to connect, chat, enjoy time together. And then why would people sort of believe everything they wanted to say? They wanted to foster a sense of happy news. They had locals, they wanted to work with other local businesses. They wanted it to be a positive and relaxing space and a place where really actually everybody was learning something. And I'll come back to that a bit later, particularly around the loyalty card. And so the personality of the Gulliver's brand was fun, innocent, positive, timeless, that kind of nostalgic sense, a little bit quirky, chatty, witty and interactive. And their values really that they kind of came back to were that they wanted to be child focused, good for you and for the planet, a place to learn new things and also to celebrate things in life. And so what we came back to again and again that we ended up with was that it really at the heart of the Gulliver's brand, they wanted it to be a place where memories are made. And so what we did was we ditched the former strapline and we went with where memories are made. I think that's it, but I'll have a look on some of the other sheets. And so that's kind of where we sort of got to with looking and really sort of focusing in on those. And then after that, we started to really kind of flesh out the personality of the brand. And some of you in your line of work, whatever, might have come across the 12 kind of characteristics. And I'm going to do a blog post a little bit more on those, but we ended up landing on the innocent being the brand kind of character. And they're based on Jung's kind of theory of there's kind of 12 sort of archetypes that exist. And they're things like the sage, the magician, the lovers, the caregiver, the guy next or the girl next door, what else? The everyday guy. So there's 12 different sort of personality types. And we landed in the end on the innocent. And so the innocent is naturally optimistic and hopeful. They can only see the good in people and life. They enjoy the simple things. They stop to smell the roses and smile at strangers. They're pure in heart and action, slow to judge, quick to forgive, free of corruption. And the innocent seeks harmony in the world, and overall their goal is to be happy and the glass is sort of half full. And so we really kind of latched onto that kind of brand characteristic and then started to look through that lens when we looked at everything to do with the brand, which is really, really helpful because it helps sort of drive decision making, and that really also then starts to inform the tone of voice. So when we started to look at the tone of voice, the persona we wanted it to be, so that's all the written content on the website and how they talk about things in marketing and social media, was to be friendly, warm and playful, the tone to be personal, humble and honest. The purpose was to educate, entertain and to sell, and the language was to be simple, inclusive and open. And so really every time they write or kind of think about anything to do with their brand, Seth and Katie, we've encouraged them to sort of look through this lens and to try and write things through the innocent archetype, and to make sure that they have a consistent brand voice that really sort of encompasses those things and not to deviate away from that, because that's really important and it will help you stand out. Some brilliant innocent archetypes would be things like innocent smoothies, and I just love how they kind of very humorously write about their brand, but in a really innocent way. It's really nice, and it's well worth looking at their copy and how they sort of put things together on their website, and that gave us quite a lot of inspiration. And so then we sort of started to look more about their name and the terminology. So just really simple things like being consistent, so calling it Gulliver's Play Café or Gulliver's, not calling it the Play Café, the Caf, the coffee shop, the play space, the play venue. So being really clear about how you talk about your brand and the type of wording that you use is really important. And also, as we started to look at things, we decided that because we wanted it to be child focused, kids call adults grown-ups, and so we wanted to use that kind of language, the language that children would use to describe big people that they're with. And also grown-ups is really inclusive. It's not parents, it's so people who perhaps care for other children or grandparents. Grown-ups is a really lovely catch-all phrase, so that people can feel sort of quite included in that. And we decided that kids would be used where possible, but children is okay, and to decide on what sort of felt right in the context. So that's kind of where we got to with looking at that, and it's really important to be really consistent. And so then we started to mood board various things, and we really loved the kind of this sort of style of writing that feels quite fun and energetic. And we really liked lots of the colours that we assimilated here. And one thing that I felt quite strongly on was that they really should engage a sign writer to really sort of drive home that kind of nostalgic art, really, and that creative art to really sort of express their brand in a way that's going to last for a long time. And we got some brilliant sort of ideas here for the rick-rack pattern, and that sort of started to inform things going forward, and you'll see that in some of the various bits and pieces that we pulled together. And so then we started to sort of sketch out the Gulliver's name and what that could potentially start to look like, drawing on that style of writing. And actually, Seth and Katie just really, as I started to sort of put it together, they just really loved it. And as they showed it to friends and family, they said, yeah, that's for us, that's the logo. And I didn't have to do sort of too much additional work sort of on that to refine that, to get that to a place that they were happy with. And so we started to then sort of develop that and think about how it might start to look and appear elsewhere. And it's probably worth saying that doesn't always happen. A lot of the time people, when they want a logo, they want to see options and they want to see different styles and different things that you've thought about. But in this particular instance, what we sort of put together quite quickly, they just absolutely loved, and it didn't need too much refinement, which was just really nice. And so then we started to pull together the colour palette, which is quite fresh and quite clean and quite spring-like, really sort of quite vivid colours, almost primary, but not quite. So obviously we've got like a red, a blue and a yellow, and they sort of, I guess these two sort of feel quite primary. This one is sort of, it's more orangey red than it is sort of like a really bright red. And then we sort of cooled it down a bit with some of these teal colours, so just so it's more of a blue-green than a real green. And then we introduced the pink. And if you want to read sort of more up on colours and colour psychology, I'd really recommend looking at the brand stylist resources on colour psychology. That's a framework that makes a lot of sense to me. And we also look quite a lot at, which she's based on, is Angela Wright's Colour Psychology Theory. And that is a book that we read often when we're looking at colour and how to put and pair colour together. And so that would be worth looking at. And so what we then started to do was to look at, you can see here I've sort of sketched out some faces. Seth and Katie were quite keen that everybody should be able to see themselves in the brand. And so we've got these very characterful, sort of colourful, sort of faces that aren't really... they're not really defined, they're quite naive. And so we really sort of, that's sort of how we sort of wanted to start to sort of bring additional sort of innocent personality again into the brand, was sort of through that sort of naive, almost childlike drawn facial expression. And then the typography, we wanted to make it as legible as possible, but we have got a, sort of like a fun script writing that's similar-ish to sort of that precursive writing that is used in schools, but again, sort of leaning into that more sort of childlike and just quite simple and easy to read form, and just making sure things like, where possible, things like in the copy, having an A that doesn't have this at the top, because obviously in school it's much more expressed like that. So those kind of subtle details are sort of quite important when you're thinking about who your target audience is. And so that's what we wanted to make sure that we did with the typography. So then we started to look more at photography and imagery for people. And again, wanting to make sure that it's representative, diverse, and also that the food looked just interesting and really beautifully sort of put together. And so they were sort of really, really happy with that. But actually we haven't lent too much into photography in this way. We have gone more in the brand as the brand sort of came together with more sort of faces and things like that. Then sort of moving on to the outside of the shop, I actually trained at university as an architect, so it's always fun when I get to sort of use my design skills. So we did a scale drawing of the outside of the shop and started to just put this on so that the sign writer could see what he needed to do and what that was going to look like. And then you can see here is Katie and Seth and their daughters and the sign writers been to the shop. I think this is just before it opened, and then obviously lockdown happened, so it's been a bit of a stressful time for them, but I know that they've been able to open and do takeaways and things like that. But yeah, so that's the outside of the Play Cafe there. And the sign writer's called the A-board dude, and he did a lovely job. They were super impressed with what he did. So then we started to look more at the website and how we were going to put that together. And I really liked the idea of there being some movement. And I think at the time that I did this, there was some new BBC Two idents, and I was really inspired by one of the ones, which was an Aardman one, where they had googly eyes appear in some slime, and I thought that was brilliant. So we did our own sort of version of that on the website, where some googly eyes sort of open and look around and things like that. And then we started to sort of create I guess really like a library of patterns and illustrations for them to be able to talk about different events, books, bank holidays, bonfire nights, being a breastfeeding friendly space, no pop and ping, no microwave meals, and yeah, just all the various things that are important, I guess, for children, Christmas, school holidays, International Children's Day, parties and party hats, things that children can do, local fruit picking season, cherries are a huge deal around where they are, and again looking at our allergies and making sure that people know that they are allergy wise there. So that's that. I'll just bring you over to here and show you how we started to then visualize the brand. Obviously these are, I'll just zoom out so you can see them all together. These are sort of menu designs that we started to look through, and we also thought about what would be sort of important, I guess, to put on the tables and what people needed to see. What I really loved was Seth's idea for a loyalty card, where we kind of went with, these are not for grown-ups. And so the loyalty card actually is completely geared around children, and when they sort of teach the staff something new, and again fostering that idea of learning, they get a sticker, and what child does not love a sticker? And I think I've got some stickers here. So these are some of the tiny stickers that they can stick on their loyalty card. So they were super fun to look at those, and yeah, just love that kind of sense of the staff want to learn new things as well. They wanted to sort of make it a happy place to kind of come, and we introduced them to the Emily Coxhead Happy newspaper. So I think they've got a subscription of those so kids can read about brilliant things happening in the world. That is really positive. And again, starting to just look at, you know, how the brand works across applications. So things like gift vouchers, coffee cups, takeaway things. What children can do at the tables became quite important as well, as they weren't allowed to play with toys so much because of COVID. So we created an activity sheet for them so that they could interact and look at that. And that was my initial sketch there. And yeah, just making sure that all the brand touch points kind of work together. And yeah, we brought in the Rick Rack border. And then also we suggested that they also make their own Gulliver's pack of cards. So that was really fun. And I have a pack of cards right here. And they're just such a lovely thing to be able to have. So yes, so they all got designed. And this is the box, which is really cool. The little characters there. Open me, and then when you open it up, I think it says boo. So that was really fun. And then just again looking at patterns, like thinking about window displays, printing wrapping paper to be able to wrap things to put in their big window, and just again making sure that all of the icons and things just are really clear on their menus, and making sure that there's a child menu and an adult menu as well. So that's kind of that would be the process, I guess, of what we started to look at. So thinking strategy first, then ideation, logo concept, bringing the brand together with illustration, colour, typography, photo direction, and then commissioning the assets, so the sign writing, the website, illustrations, and then all of the touch points that would be in the physical space. So I think that is, I don't know if I had sort of anything else I particularly sort of wanted to sort of draw out sort of within all of that. But if you've got any questions, I'd be really happy to answer that. I think one of the things to say is we started working on this in November 2019, and then the brand launched in March. So it did take us sort of a good obviously Christmas was sort of in the midst of that, but it took us a good sort of 3.5-4 months really to think about the strategy, pull the concept together, create the website, and just make sure that everything was together for the brand that we created. And I think taking time is a really important thing when you're sort of considering branding. I often people say to me, I really want this to be done and I want it to be done next month. Can you do it? And I think if you have the thinking time to think about it, that's great. But for most people, myself included, actually sometimes when I come back to things, they just sometimes don't feel right. Or you can think, actually, I need to just think on that, and I need to maybe talk to other people who know me as well to just really check that actually the decisions that I'm making are important. Because obviously branding, websites and things like that, they're a really, really big investment, and you want to get that right because actually that's going to set you up for success for growing your business and for making sure that you have everything that you need in place for launch as well. So these guys in particular, they didn't have anything, so we started completely from scratch. But we often get asked to sort of come in on branding projects and to tweak and refine things, and to work out what isn't quite feeling right and rectify that so that it does start to feel right. So yeah, we're not sort of like we only do this sort of design studio, and we are small. It's me and Simon, and we bring in other people where we need to, and we work with others to be able to do that, like a sign writer and working with printers or copywriters and photographers and other sort of creatives. But also things kind of take time because it's us doing the work. And we like being a small studio where we can be really personal, and we feel like that's quite important. But yeah, I think probably I'll let you finish there, but I hope that you've kind of enjoyed looking a bit more at this brand, and and seeing a little bit more kind of about what sort of went into it and what we were thinking and why we were thinking the things that we did. And also why that strategy at the beginning is just so important, because actually without that you're kind of guessing. You need to know who your customers are, you need to know what they care about, you need to know, do they care about if it's from a local producer, do they want to have environmentally sourced paper, do they care about those things, do they not care about those things? So it's really important to understand that, so that when you come to commission things like your menus, whether or not that's really important to your customer base, to know whether or not it's a reusable thing, whether it's sustainably sourced paper, whether or not what you're doing, how big is your carbon footprint. These are all sort of things that are kind of really important, and actually getting that strategy in place to really understand what ticks sort of within your customer and what their values are. You want to be able to chime in with them and to be able to understand that, so that people go, oh, I just get this and I love it, and they want to kind of come back again and again and again. So yes, that is this project. It is, as I say, one of my favourites, and it was such a joy to put together, because I knew Katie and I was at school with her. Yeah, if you have any questions, please do ask. It's me and Simon. We send us a direct message. We're completely fine with that. And, our passion really is to see businesses thrive, and we want to set people up for success. So if you have questions, do just ask us. We don't mind. But this is what we love, and we really want to serve our community. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you soon. I've got to work out how to turn this live off now.